Baby or Winston Churchill? It's Sanctuary of Reality, my comic review series. Time now for Spawn issue 10, entitled Crossing Over. Spawn, who is not Spawn, yet knows everything about Spawn, past, present, and future, journeys to the 7th level of hell, known as Erebus. There he finds men bound and hooded before their caged four-color creations. Not Spawn summons his powers to try to free the prisoners, but is unable to do so. They all give him their power, even the strange visitor from another planet, the most powerful one of them all. With this, he's still unable to free them. The injustice of their situation is represented by a not violator being, with scales of money and a black shriveled heart, taunting him for failing. Not Spawn frets over his inability to break out the superheroes from their corporate cages or to get justice for the creators who sold their rights to them, when Cerebus the Aardvark appears and leads him out of Erebus and into his own hometown of Kitchener, Ontario. They pass onward through the black and white world until color is restored at Not Spawn's very own house. There he finds he not only owns this home, but he has a wife and child. Cerebus explains that his creator didn't sell him out. As simple as that. Cerebus gets a phone call and departs, leaving Not Spawn happy at last, owned by Todd McFarlane forever. I was a big Todd McFarlane fan as a kid. I was there at 7 years old when he joined Amazing Spider-Man. I gushed like mad when Venom first appeared. Eric Larson came along? Boo! Get out of here, Eric Larson. How dare you try to replace Todd? Then he got his own adjectiveless Spidey series, and I just thought it was the best book out there when I was 10. But when he and the rest of the Image bunch jumped ship a year and a half later, I felt like a betrayal to me and to the characters. I did buy a copy of Spawn #1, but I can never find a copy of #2 or 3 at the time because speculators were just gobbling them up, trying to, thinking they were going to become rich and famous by having them. But I didn't keep up with Spawn until a while later when it cooled down in popularity, and of course by then Todd had stopped drawing it. Anyway, I'm not a real big fan of this particular issue. Todd's artwork was still nice at this time, and Dave's writing is still good, but he's following up on issues that were written by Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman, and next issue was written by Frank Miller. So all those guest writers, this was the weakest of the bunch because those all actually wrote about Spawn, and Dave chose to write an allegory about Todd McFarlane. So a lot of people actually got into Cerebus because of this appearance. This issue probably had the highest print run of any Cerebus appearance. But some people, this is the only Cerebus they've ever actually even read. And yet it's not Cerebus. So I don't know. What's interesting about this issue is that it was published concurrent with the women portion of the Mothers and Daughters storyline. Yet it's more in line with the kind of stuff that was coming along during Reeds and Minds, which hadn't been published at this point. Dave using his creation more as a direct stand-in for himself would be more along those lines of those stories. So it was kind of setting things up in a way for Dave's usage of Cerebus in that regard. Like I said, it would have, if this issue had been more like the Ninja Turtle crossover had been, I think it would have had a bigger impact to Cerebus as a character. as a result, it's actually a very skippable issue if you're trying to read Spawn or Cerebus. It's not essential whatsoever because it doesn't have anything to do with anything except larger things concerning the creators of both books. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual stories or the characters themselves because it doesn't actually technically feature either one of them. It doesn't help that in hindsight, there's what Todd did to Neil Gaiman. In case you didn't know, the issue prior to this, issue 9, Neil Gaiman wrote, and in it he created two characters, Angela and Cogliostro. Todd McFarlane continued to use those characters afterwards, but did not pay Neil for the rights to use those. This is despite the fact that Todd was championing creator rights, especially in this issue. As a result of a court battle, Neil won and Todd lost all rights to these two characters. Now they're over at Marvel being wasted, but it's a real messy case, but it really does sour the underlying message of this particular issue. Todd became the violator in the money dress. I also take issue with a few of the heroes in cages. They're stated as being heroes, yet you got Joker, Doc Ock, Juggernaut, Doctor Doom, and Venom, who was originally conceived as not even an anti-hero, all in there. And Venom, don't get me started on Venom. Venom's there because Todd McFarlane was the first artist to draw him. But I'm in the camp that says that David Michelinie, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, he created the character years prior, and Todd was just the first guy to draw him. He didn't actually design the character. If anybody should get a co-creator credit for Venom for any reason, it should be Erik Larsen, because he's the guy that really established the whole alien big mouth with tongue stuff that the later creators really identify Venom with. But I digress. That's a whole other can of worms, the whole ownership of Venom thing. But yeah. I will give Todd props for one thing, though. He reached out to Dave Sim a few years back when it came time to reprint Spawn number 10, this particular issue. Instead of just doing it lawyer to lawyer, he actually called Dave directly. And kind of like what Kevin Eastman did when it came time to reprint TMNT number 8. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing for him to do. So I give him a thumbs up for that. We'll leave you now with an image of Cerebus in Spawn's costume, as drawn by Dave Sim, which was featured as a pinup in a prior issue.